Bullfighting is becoming one of the most popular spectacles in the world, culturally and also just as a fun pastime. Now, personally, I think watching a bull get slaughtered in front of 100 million people, however many people are watching, doesn't seem like a really fun time, but it's been an incredible part of the culture of Spain, of Portugal, and of many other countries as well. So I feel like it's something that we as a world need to accept is going to happen and need to kind of know a little bit more about. So today I'm going to be talking about bullfighting, the history of it, but also specifically horses in bullfighting, and one of the most influential people to the sport in the last 10 years. And also something I find really interesting is aggression in the horses that do the bullfighting. So we're going to start. We're going to start with a little bit of a history lesson on bullfighting. Unfortunately, after lots of searching, I didn't really find much on how bullfighting really started. There's not a year. No one really knows what brought it on. There are ancient photos, like wall paintings, depicting people, both men and female, slaughtering bulls in what seems like a fun activity. Now, whether or not you could think of this as just a picture of someone making dinner or bullfighting is up to your interpretation. Since they are so common to see, a lot of people think that it is bullfighting in the ancient ages. Now, it is pretty well known that bullfighting started in Spain. As it became more popular, it kind of merged to southern France, to Portugal. Now we're seeing it in Mexico, Colombia, Japan, and even the United States. Now in the United States, we do a more humane version of bullfighting. We have a mat or a band around the bull so that when the lances hit the bull, it doesn't actually hurt the bull at all. But in other countries, they are still using bullfighting in its full glory with the slaughter of an animal, which isn't something that I'm okay with, but culturally it's a huge practice, so it's something that I need to recognize is a thing. Kind of like fox hunting. One of my friend Addie Reddish explained it. Fox hunting is something that we think is a normal thing. You know, you go out, you hunt a fox, you chase it for a long time, and you kill it, and you're like, yeah, I killed the fox. It's kind of that same concept. Other people might think that's weird, like we think killing a bull in front of a crowd of people is weird, but to each their own. Now, legally, in the entire world, you cannot kill the bull in the arena. The bull can fall down, he can lose consciousness, he can stagger, he can lose the ability to move, but he cannot die in the arena. Does that stop people from trying? No. Does that make it okay? No. I would argue that it makes it even more gruesome because they are trying to get the bull to that farthest point. Now, of course, when you think bullfighting, you think a bull and a matador with a wavy red flag or cape or red piece of fabric that they wave at the bull, and it's fun. But horses didn't actually enter the scene in Spain, they entered the scene in Portugal. As we learned in some of our research with Portuguese and horses, they're great with horses. The Portugal horses are incredible animals and athletes. It makes sense that Portugal would incorporate their long history of equestrian feats into their love of bullfighting, which we now call and has been called Rojeno. Rojeno began, like I said, in Portugal. That is where there was a man on a horse and they are fighting the bull. The man will have a lance in one hand and he will be controlling the horse with the other. They challenge the bull, so the horse runs in the ring with the bull, they run around a little bit, he makes a show, woohoo, yay, I'm on a horse and I'm running around, and then they begin the fight. So the first thing that generally you see is the horse and the bull standing off. And this is something I find fascinating just from a behavioral aspect. Horses are prey animals, bulls are scary because they have horns and they're standing off. The horses are trained and they're conditioned and they are desensitized to the bulls to the point where they even challenge them. You know, they're trained to challenge the bull as they would in the wild, which I'll be getting into a little more later. Now, it is safe-ish. Horses are rarely injured in bullfights in the arena. Sometimes in training it can get a little sketchy, but in the arena the bull's horns are either filed down or covered in a copper ball so that there is no way for them to puncture any horse. There has been accidents in the past where horses have come under a bull's leg or they've become demobilized by the bull, but generally it's very safe, and even if the horse and the bull do get a little tangled up, the horses are usually, well, no, the horses are limber enough and athletic enough to get out of the way. Something that I find really cool about the training of these horses, just briefly talk about it, since it is what got me interested in this in the first place, is the men who ride these horses. They usually ride one-handed. Sometimes they even ride with no hands. The horses move completely off knee pressure, not calf pressure, some thigh pressure, but a lot of knee pressure. You know, those guys that hang on with their lower leg and they use their knees to maneuver the horse around. You see when they ride, they're moving their front end freely. They're leaning over, they're leaning forward, they're leaning back, but their horse doesn't even notice. They are completely trained off knee pressure, which is incredible. As incredible training these horses are, these like stallions are able to do classical dressage movements by knee pressure. And it's just, I get really, really passionate and nerded out about it because it's so cool. Now, in the world of bullfighting, there is one person who, anytime you look up bullfighting with horses, their name comes up. Pablo Hermoso. He is an incredible, incredible horseman and an incredible showman. I like to compare him a little bit with Pat Pirelli. Not a huge fan of Pat Pirelli myself, just my opinion, but in terms of being able to feed off a crowd and to give the crowd what they want, to make a spectacle of themselves, the men are both very talented in the sort, but as well as being incredible horsemen. So Pablo got his start in Spain, actually. He just grew up in a small town. He loved horses and he rode as a child. He didn't get into or even discover Rejone. Still having trouble with that word, I'm sorry. He didn't discover Rejone until he saw a flyer for a traveling bullfight with Rejone in it, and he saw the men on the horses fighting the bulls, and from that, just that poster, he decided, you know what, I want to be a bullfighter, which I think is incredible. I remember seeing a horse jump a cross-country jump when I was a child and thinking I want to do that, and still doing it. So I definitely think that that's an incredible amount of drive to be able to still want to do that after years and years and to strive for it. Pablo experienced lots of setbacks. Getting up in the bullfighting world is really hard because there's not a lot of opportunities for amateurs or people who aren't well known to actually perform and become well known, which is one reason I could argue that Pablo is stayed so popular over the years, because he's so dominating, nobody else can really get a chance. But after lots of setbacks, after horses being injured, or one of his horses actually died after an accident in the training arena with a bull, he persevered, and now he, like I said, is the most famous bullfighter in the world. He travels from Spain to Portugal to Colombia. He's performed in Mexico. He's performed all over the world. This man is a legend. Some of the more ground-breaking maneuvers that Pablo introduced into the ring that the crowds absolutely went wild for were, well, the first one, cantering on 2 tracks, which I find incredibly difficult looking, and I don't understand how you could train a horse to do that, but he does it, and he makes it look so easy. Basically, the concept is that you start a horse cantering on 1 track, and you'll introduce the haunches in or the shoulder in. This introduces a 2nd track. Pablo himself is able to canter the horse and start developing such an extreme track that in the ring with the bull, he is able to canter his horse completely sideways. Now, the horse is bent slightly inward, so it's almost like he's doing leg yield head to the wall, but just vertically to the wall instead of a little bit angled. As a dressage person, thinking about the training and thinking about how he's trained his horses from just a regular old canter to 2 tracks to like cantering sideways blows my mind. He also does that with a bull chasing after the horse. And that's one thing that I think is so fascinating about Rehome is that the horses are able to perform these crazy movements at top speeds with a bull chasing after them and an arena full of people screaming at them, and they're still completely focused on their rider and completely focused on what they're being asked to do. Another movement that I don't even really know how to describe. I'd almost call it a rollback or a turn on the haunches, but a very extreme version of this. This happens, it's another move of Pablo's that the crowd just goes crazy for, and he uses it often in his performances. He provokes the bull to chase the horse. The bull will be up on the horse's butt, like right there, touching the horse with its head. And Pablo will have the horse do a 360 turn, which seems like it's on the haunches. The horse's front feet touch the ground at 2 point. They start on the ground. He does a 180, the horse's front feet touch the ground. He does another 180, the horse's feet touch the ground. The horse is essentially just pivoting on its back leg, incredibly fast enough so that the bull almost loses his train of thought and is like, whoa, what just happened? But the crowd goes wild. And from a dressage standpoint, it baffles me. It baffles me. And I know that I'm supposed to talk about the dressage aspects and how they play into this, but I honestly, I'm not advanced enough to even think about how someone would start training that. I mean, I could imagine having a horse start with doing like a spin, like in reining, and then eventually just having the horse bounce more. But it baffles me, like I said. So while Pablo is really great, something that came out of some of Pablo's riding is turning up a lot more on the bullfighting ring. So Pablo has this horse, Cabello. Cabello's this big gray, he's beautiful, he's amazing in the ring, he's a stallion, he's very good at provoking the bull, bringing the bull to him, and he's a magnificent horse. But something that happened, an incident, kind of made Pablo think about Cabello a little bit in a different sight. So during one of the performances, during every performance, when the bull gets very tired and very weak and close to the end, Pablo will dismount his horse, set his horse, let him stand, let him walk around, do whatever, and he will walk to the bull, and with matadors around him, almost like rodeo clowns, Pablo will pat the bull, he will torment the bull a little bit more. It's demeaning and it's kind of hard to watch, but it's part of the performance. During one of these times, Pablo was doing his thing, patting the bull's head, and his horse, Cabello, attacked the bull. Now, one of the reasons that it could be is that the bull kind of stood up and started going after Pablo a little bit, and so you think, oh, well, maybe the horse is protecting Pablo, but it's almost as if the horse saw the aggressive behavior of the bull and just immediately went into fight mode and started attacking the bull. And this horse, Cabello, it's turned into almost like the main event. You know, when Pablo gets done lancing the bull, he'll bring Cabello out for the last few torture rounds. It's hard for me to talk about this without calling it gruesome, but he'll bring Cabello out, he'll do a little bit with him, and then at the very end he'll get off, he'll stand to the side, he'll raise his hand up, and Cabello will face off with the bull and run at him and, like, with his teeth, grab the haunches of the bull and sometimes even drag him a little bit, which is very aggressive and very violent, but a really interesting concept to think about. Like I said earlier, horses are prey animals. Now when stallions face off, they become more aggressive, but generally the bull, who looks like a predator, you wouldn't think that a horse would be aggressive toward that bull. But these stallions that Pablo trains, you know, they're becoming more and more comfortable with these bulls. They go through so much training on the ground without even any contact with the bull at all. Then they are trained with a fake bull on a wheel. Then they get into an actual practice arena with a bull, and then they get into the real arena. So by the time they get into the show arena, where there are crowds and there's a lot of energy coming off the crowd, they're just like already so comfortable with this animal that they know it's not going to hurt them. They know they have the leg up on them. They know they can face off them. Another reason that horses may be getting aggressive toward the bulls is because Pablo uses natural tactics that a horse would in the wild to provoke the bull. So he'll have the horse do a little like paw aggressively, or do some Spanish walk, or pee off, or, you know, kind of arch his neck, make him look big. And this provokes the bull, but it also makes the stallion, normally they're stallions. Occasionally he will use mares, but most of the time he'll use stallions. I'll get into that a little later. But it makes the stallions already feel big and gives them releases of testosterone. So naturally, when they start seeing the bull's weaknesses, pop into their instincts and they start going after the bull. Very interesting concept to me, because this is similar, like you said, Karen, earlier, to cattle horses. The cutting horses specifically, they spend so much time in the pen with these cows. They know that the cow's not going to be able to harm them. They've never been harmed by a cow before, so when the cow tries to face off with them, they may not be as aggressive and attack the cow, but they know that they can face off with it, and they will stand there and look the cow in the eye and say to them, "Don't mess with me." And the cows are like, "Okay, we won't mess with you." But that concept of horses being aggressive towards other animals was just mind-blowing to me. All in all, for this project, I spent so much time watching these bullfights, and though, like I've said before, I don't think that it's morally okay. I think that it's becoming such a prominent thing in our society that it needs to be addressed, it needs to be thought about. In closing, I really enjoyed doing this project. I got into it because I really enjoyed seeing horses do classical dressage moves with a motive, with a meaning behind them. That helps me as a rider, and it helps me as a student think more about what I'm doing in the saddle in our arena, and how that compares to what people do when working in the fighting ring, in the cow pen, anywhere on the range. And that's why I chose this project, and I'm really glad I did. I went into it thinking just about the training of these horses, and I came out with so much more knowledge about the culture and the history. Pablo Hermoso, who though is very good at killing bulls, he's an incredible horse trainer. Absolutely blows my mind what he can do with a horse. Thank you so much for watching this final, and I hope you enjoyed it.